Hari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So we're reading today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is no surprise to you at all. We're reading in the second canto, 7th chapter, and our verses are 4 to 6. Not very many verses, but there's a lot of long purports in there. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayana, we can say this together. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye nasta prayeshu avajreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of birth, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada. I almost forgot. By regular attendance in the classes of the Bhagavatam, and by entering the service of the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised, or transcendental song, is established as an irrevocable fact. Hare Krishna. So we are doing 4 to 6. Is that correct? I think it's correct. You know what my schedule is? Oh, yeah. I believe, okay, it's an update. He did send me the wrong verses at first and sent me the right verses. So anyway, I believe this is correct by my best endeavors. Okay, so 4. We're going to start on 4, but of course we're going to remember. We're going to try to remember what you've heard already, because this is chapter 7. This is a chapter called Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. So, yeah, there's a lot of stories about Krishna. But I'm going to offer my prayers to Sri Prabhupada first. But yeah, first. Om Agnata Mirandasya Janandana Salakaya Chakshurun Yilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master very kindly forced open my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. And it's very difficult to repay a debt like that, that Prabhupada's influence changed the whole course of my life and yours also. No, it's very difficult to pay a debt back like that, but we can make our endeavors. Not that we're ever thinking that we're going to repay him equally, but we can make our endeavors to serve his mission and his desires and his instructions. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So you've only heard 3 verses so far about the different incarnations. Do you remember some of the personalities that were spoken about? Varahadev. What do you remember about him? Tusks. What form? A wild boar. Yeah, amazing. Nishta, former Nishta.
Yeah, okay. And then on that point of Varahadev, a note that I remember, Prabhupada was saying like Varahadev is the priest of
Nice, nice. Anything else you remember? Previous incarnations or?
Kapila.
Kapila. What about Kapila?
Born form of the Lord that reached.
He preached to his mother, yeah. He gave great instructions. 3rd canto, we'll be talking about that. And that incarnation, Lord Kapila. And so who else? Let's see. Kapila. Demigods, yeah, that was. And that 2nd verse talks about Suyagya, who was born in the womb of his wife Akuti. And then Suyagya got the demigods, and he was later called Hari. So can you think of what's the point of understanding these things or hearing about these incarnations of the Lord? What's some of the takeaways that you get from hearing about the different forms of the Lord and different incarnations of the Lord? Jai Nishinga.
Just that he isn't limited to one form.
Yeah, that's a big point, isn't it? Yes. Anybody who grabs a mic.
that Krishna is very personable with like his devotees. So he comes in so many forms, and we're like attracted to different forms.
Yes, that's a very important factor. That Krishna comes in different forms, and in different places and at different times. Why? To attract the living entities back, because as we've heard many times, Krishna wants us back even more than we want us back. Even though our desire to go back to God has been awakened a little bit, still there's a lot there. There's a lot of activities. And it comes in all different shapes and sizes and forms and places and this and that for everyone. For everyone, not just a certain pious group of people or this or that, but just everyone can become attracted to him. Okay, so we'll go on. We'll proceed with our text number 4. This one is about Atri. We'll just read the English because there's a lot there to go. Who would like to read that? Would somebody like to read? Would you like to read? Can you grab this microphone? Sorry.
Text 4. The great sage Atri prayed for offspring, and the Lord, being satisfied with him, promised to reincarnate as Atri's son, Dattatreya, Datta, the son of Atri. And by the grace of the lotus feet of the Lord, many Yadus, Hayas, etc., became so purified that they obtained both material and spiritual blessings.
That's an interesting point, no? That they attained both material and spiritual blessings. So one who makes an attempt to surrender to the Lord gets provided for with so many things. So I want to read the purport because all these purports are very important and have lots of things in there. Or not me personally read the purport. Would you like to start reading? And I'll interrupt you shortly, I promise. Four, number 4, yes, purport.
Transcendental relations between the personality of Godhead and the living entities are eternally established in 5 different affectionate humors, which are known as Santa, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhura.
Okay, so here's my first interruption. I'll tell you what those mean in case you're not so familiar. Shanta, it means neutral. There's not a heck of a lot of a tight bond there, but it's a neutral relationship. You realize that he's the Lord, you want to serve him, like Krishna's flute or the trees or the birds or whatever. Okay, Shanta. Dasya means a servant. A servant. You have the role of a servant. Sakya means a friend. We're going up little notches higher in intimacy. A friend, serving the Lord as a friend. Vatsalya means parental relationship, and this is what Atri has. He has a parental relationship with the Lord. He has a desire to serve the Lord as his son. He desires to be the parent of the Lord and provide the Lord with him. And Madhurya means a loving, a conjugal relationship. So those 5 kinds of rasas there we've spoken about throughout the Bhagavatam. Okay, continue.
The sage Atri was related with the Lord in the affectionate Vatsalya humor, and therefore, as a result of his devotional perfection, he was inclined to have the personality of Godhead as his son. The Lord accepted his prayer, and he gave himself as the son of Atri. Such a relation of sonhood between the Lord and his pure devotees can be cited in many instances. And because the Lord is unlimited, he has an unlimited number of father devotees. Factually, the Lord is the father of all living entities, but out of transcendental affection and love between the Lord and his devotees, the Lord takes more pleasure in becoming the son of a devotee than in becoming one's father. The father actually serves the son, whereas the son only demands all sort of services from the father. Therefore, a pure devotee who is always inclined to serve the Lord wants him as the son and not as the father. The Lord also accepts such service from the devotee, and thus the devotee becomes more than the Lord.
Okay, interesting. Let's stop here for a minute and discuss this little point. Srila Prabhupada is explaining that by that loving relationship that the devotee wants to serve the Lord as his son, the devotee becomes even more prominent. Because why? Because he's giving everything to the Lord. He's giving everything to the Lord instead of the reverse role that you accept Krishna as your father, whom he is. And what's the relationship between the mother and father and the children? Children are they're totally dependent on them, but they're always asking them for things too. Give me this, give me that. I want this, I want that. Can you do this? But in the devotees in that mood of service to the Lord, they're thinking, oh, my son needs this. Oh, he needs to eat. Mother Yasoda is always thinking, oh, Krishna, if I don't feed him, he's going to starve to death. Oh, if I don't take care of him, I don't clean him, if I don't watch out that he's not playing with the monkeys or the cows, and he might be in danger with the cows. They might step on his feet or whatever. She's always, that's how she becomes and stays absorbed in love, in her loving relationship with Krishna. So that personalism, as opposed to an impersonal thing of, the Lord's just like white or a white light or this or that. There's so much more opportunity for intense meditation on the Lord. Loving affection. Okay, continue, please.
The Lord also accepts such service from the devotee, and thus the devotee becomes more than the Lord. The impersonalists desire to become one with the Supreme, but the devotee becomes more than the Lord, surpassing the desire of the greatest monist. Parents and other relatives of the Lord achieve all mystic opulences automatically because of their intimate relationship with the Lord. Such opulences include all details of material enjoyment, salvation, and mystic powers. Therefore, the devotee of the Lord does not seek them separately, wasting his valuable time in life.
Okay, another interruption. So people on different paths in the different yogic paths sometimes are aspiring for what? Mystic powers, And it's all a question of manipulating the different energies to get those mystic powers. They exist. Power to be, expand oneself great, or even the power to minimize your little. All of those powers are there. It's just a question of performing the austerities and coming to a point of quote unquote deserving to get them, But it's a huge endeavor. That's what Prabhupada's point is. It's a huge endeavor. Just like you think of, or how about if you think of, can you think of some examples of people who performed tremendous austerities already in the Bhagavatam, or that you're familiar with, to obtain powers to conquer the world, or this or that, or different powers? And you have to give the example of what they did too. Don't forget the mic.
Dhruva.
Dhruva. Okay, so what was his desire when he started out?
He wanted, he wanted a kingdom.
Just a little one, right?
A huge, massive
Oh,
kingdom.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then what was he doing?
He went to the forest and meditated and prayed for a long time.
Yes, he did. Not very long. Do you remember how long? 6 months. 6 months. Yeah, he stopped. He didn't even eat. He didn't even breathe. And then, as he was holding his breath, this Dhruva example is it's a funny example to start with, because he becomes totally purified and he switches his intention and he gets love of Godhead. But still, the point is there that in the initial stages, and the story of Dhruva is also particularly encouraging because we're not starting off with pure devotional desires. We're starting off with mixed desires. Yes, we want Krishna, but we also want comfort and peace and happiness and do other things too, But it shows us that we can, wherever you're at, you can start devotional service. Wherever your mentality is at, whatever degree of conditioning that you have, you can start at some point, and gradually by applying the process, one becomes purified of the incidental or material desires that are not actually going to give you what you think they're going to give you anyway. But one becomes blessed with pure devotion to the Lord more and more. So Dhruva is another one. Any other examples of people who performed austerities that come off? Yep, I'm waiting for that example. Go ahead, John. Johnny Shinga. You're not? Uh-oh. So who's going to do it? Presents?
I believe that Hiranyakashipu,
I believe him, too.
yes, I don't remember how long his austerities were for, but
Thousands.
he wished for the ability to be basically invincible,
Mm-hmm.
and he prayed to Brahma for it.
Yeah, and it was really simple. He just sat there and did it, right? His austerity.
No,
No?
I don't remember exactly what they were, but I know
He
that's
stood on his tiptoes
okay.
with his hand raised. So just think of that. Standing on your tiptoes is uncomfortable enough when you have to reach up really high and get something off the tippity top shelf, But if you had to stand there without any support, without anything for years and years and years and years, thousands of years, and he was probably in a place like Florida because something very Floridian happened to him. Does anybody know what I'm hinting at right now? Well, fire ants bit him. The ants bit him so much so that they ate all his flesh and blood and everything. And he had to maintain himself in his bones. That's a severe case of fire ant bite. That's for sure. But we can all relate to it, I'm sure, having been here for a few months, right? Yeah, so huge amounts of austerity. And then when he finally gets when Lord Brahma comes to offer him his benediction or whatever, he said, I can't give you that because I don't have it. So he tries something. Anyway, the story, that's not the point. But the point is that it was a huge endeavor, long time. And Prabhupada, so what's Prabhupada, what's your name, Kaboo?
Brandon.
Brandon, do you remember what Brandon just read a little bit before I started yakking again? About the difference between those people who perform austerities to get mystic power and a devotee who serves the Lord. What was Prabhupada saying there? Remember? It's still up on the board. Oh yeah, it's right there. He doesn't waste his time because he gets them by Krishna's mercy. Okay, let's finish that purport. Thanks, Brandon.
The valuable time of one's life must therefore be fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Then other desirable achievements are automatically gained. But even after obtaining such achievements, one should be on guard against the pitfall of offenses at the feet of the devotees. The vivid example is Hayaya, who achieved all such perfection and devotional service, but because of his offense at the feet of the devotee, was killed by Lord Parashurama. The Lord became the son of the great sage Atri and became known as Dattatreya.
You're doing good. Thank you very kindly. Okay, so that story of Hayaya will be related later on. It's because here you're getting just a little summary or an indication of who some of the major incarnations of the Lord. And then as the Bhagavatam goes on, that story will be related. Hayaya is actually it's like a province. It's a province or a dynasty. It's like a dynasty. And this Hayaya that they're referring to is actually Kartavirya Arjuna. But so we only have a half an hour. I'm not going to tell you that story. Okay? All right. Next verse, number 5. We have another story. Do we have volunteers, or do you want me to call them? Okay, go ahead. Then after the same people volunteer more than 3 times, then I'm just going to call them. Okay, go ahead.
The purport?
Verse. This is the verse. Okay. Yeah, you're right there. No, verse. There.
To create different planetary systems, I had to undergo austerities and penance, and the Lord, thus being pleased with me, incarnated in 4 sanas, Sanaka, Sanat Kumara, Sanandana, and Sanatana. In the previous creation, the spiritual truth was devastated, but the 4 sanas explained it so nicely that the truth at once became clearly perceived by the sages.
So can you understand can you remember who's speaking this verse? Who's the I? Brahma. Good, just checking on you. Okay. So this is Lord Brahma talking about whom? Now who is he talking about? 4 Kumars. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
The Vishnu Sahasranama prayers mention the Lord's name as Sanat and Sanatana Tama. The Lord and the living entities are both qualitatively Sanatana or eternal, but the Lord is Sanatana Tama, or the eternal in the superlative degree.
Tama, in that sense, in this instance, Tama means superlative. Usually sometimes we're thinking of tamas. We're thinking in mode of ignorance, the lowest. But like Uttama Sloka, Uttama is the highest. Okay, go ahead.
The living entities are positively Sanatana, but not superlatively.
What does that mean? Sometimes we read these things very quickly and we're not superlative. What is it? The living entities are positively Sanatana. So what was Sanatan? What was the translation? What does Sanatan mean? Eternal. So they're eternal, but not superlative eternal. So what does that mean? What are they saying that they're not? Hare Krishna. Okay, that basically they're eternal living entities, but because they're tataska, marginal, they can take shelter of the supreme, but they're not the superlative living. The superlative Sanatana refers to the Lord. Okay, the superlative Sanatana refers to the Lord. He's the Sanatana. Where is it? Sanatana Tama, the supreme, and the living entities have the same qualities of eternality, knowledge, and bliss, but a little bit. Okay.
Oh, the living entities are.
Yeah, sorry, I just thought it was something else. So we as fortunate as we are to be hearing from Srila Prabhupada so regularly, this point isn't quote unquote news to us, that the living entities are small and the Supreme Lord is great, and the living entity can never be equal to the Supreme Lord. But that's really big news to a lot of people. To a lot of living entities who don't really get the opportunity to hear from the proper source. And so they get their mind all distracted by all these speculative knowledge or totally misinformation or whatever. And they're thinking that I want to merge with the Supreme Lord and become one with the Supreme Lord. Like, hell no, it's not possible. Okay, go on.
Okay, the living entities are positively Sanatana, but not superlatively, because the living entities are apt to fall to the atmosphere of non-eternity. Therefore, the living entities are quantitatively different from the superlative Sanatana, the Lord. The word son is also used in the sense of charity. Therefore, when everything is given up in charity unto the Lord reciprocates by giving himself unto the devotee. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4:11. Ye yata mam prapadyante. Brahmaji wanted to create the whole cosmic.
What does that mean? Ye yata mam prapadyante.
Oh, as those surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly.
Yeah. Okay.
Brahmaji wanted to create the whole cosmic situation as it was in the previous millennium. And because in the last devastation, knowledge of the absolute truth was altogether erased from the universe, he desired that the same knowledge again be renovated.
What does it mean that the knowledge of the absolute truth was altogether erased? That sounds really scary, doesn't it? So what was that? What was that circumstance?
What it talks about right at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, when the verbal translation was lost, when it was passed down from.
That's the explaining of the disciplic succession in the fourth chapter. Is that where?
No, right there at the beginning where it was talking about that this conversation verbally in the Bhagavad Gita was passed down, but then it was lost, and then.
Yeah. It's in the fourth chapter, but it's okay. This what's being spoken of here in this purport, because this is Lord Brahma explaining it's when Lord Brahma lives for 100 years. At the end of his 100 years, Lord Brahma and all the universes and all creation, all material manifestation is absorbed back into the body of Mahavishnu. So that's you could say, the total eradication or the erase, all the knowledge of the absolute truth is erased. It's not really erased permanently. It's just, everybody goes to sleep for 4,300,000,000 years or so. And that's just one breath of Mahavishnu, just for a breath of Vishnu. 400 billion years later, they come out again when he breathes out in different universes. So that process of creation and annihilation is perpetually existing while the material universe is existing, and then so it's erased. And so Lord Brahma has to again recreate. In fact, Lord Brahma's position is quite difficult because every day he has to create, every day, and sometimes there's some intrigue and people steal the Vedic knowledge, and he has to. That's all. But okay, continue.
Knowledge of the absolute truth was altogether erased from the universe. He desired that the same knowledge again be renovated. Otherwise, there would be no meaning in the creation.
Okay, that's another point. What is the point of the creation? To make us suffer? It's a byproduct. Majority of evil. No. Sundari. Okay, Hare Krishna.
To provide an opportunity for for us for self-realization.
Yes, yes. The whole point of the creation is to rectify the errant living entities like us who thought that we could be happy if we did things separate from God. Okay, sorry.
Because transcendental knowledge is a prime necessity, the ever-conditioned souls are given a chance for liberation in every millennium of creation. This mission of Brahmaji was fulfilled by the grace of the Lord when the four Sanas, namely Sanaka, Sanatan Kumar, Sanandana, and Sanatana, appeared as his four sons. These four Sanas were incarnations of the knowledge of the Supreme Lord, and as such they explained transcendental knowledge so explicitly that all the sages could at once assimilate this knowledge without the least difficulty. By following in the footsteps of the four Kumaras, one can at once see the Supreme Personality of Godhead within oneself.
Can you think of a personality in the Bhagavatam that saw the four Kumars? Hiranyakashipu saw the four Kumars? He might have. But I'm thinking of someone else, so Hare Krishna. Jai and Vijay saw the four Kumars. They did. They didn't recognize him, but they did see him. Yes, okay. And Prithu Maharaj is what I'm thinking of, fourth canto. Prithu Maharaj, he saw the four Kumars, and it was predicted that he would, and he got transcendental knowledge from them also. But that was their whole point. The four Kumars are incarnations of the transcendental knowledge of the Supreme Lord, and therefore they are always disseminating transcendental knowledge. And can you remember what Prabhupada said about how the sages, once the four Kumars spoke their transcendental knowledge, how the sages reacted, how they assimilated it? It's right there. The top one, knowledge without the least difficulty. They understood that transcendental knowledge because it was explained by the four Kumars so nicely that they could understand it without the least difficulty. Okay, and that, any comments or questions or reflections on the two verses that we've breezed through already? So we'll go on to today's verse, which is full of interesting information that might make you wiggle a little bit, squirm, I mean. Okay. Would you like to read? Thank you.
To exhibit his personal way of austerity and penance, he appeared in twin form as Narayana and Nara in the womb of Murti, the wife of Dharma and the daughter of Daksha. Celestial beauties, the companions of Cupid, went to try to break his vows, but they were unsuccessful, for they saw that many beauties like them were emanating from him, the personality of Godhead.
Okay, thank you. So hold on a second. Let's talk about this. So in this verse here, what Brahma is explaining, not only the incarnation, the twin incarnations of Nara and Narayan, but also some very specific information about Narayan. And why do you think that it mentions their father's name, their mother's name, who was this, who was that? Why is all that? Is it important? Why is it there so specifically? Any thoughts on that? Yes.
For one thing, this conversation was a prediction of the appearance of the Lord, so he has to be specific. Otherwise, anybody could call themselves Nara and Narayan.
Yes.
Be passed as the
Yes.
Lord.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly the point. It's very specific, and the incarnations are listed with their activities that they do and the dynasty that they come in, their parents, and everything. And Srila Prabhupada would often make the point. Nowadays, people are accepting incarnations or people who claim to be incarnations very cheaply. You know, they claim to be an incarnation, but Prabhupada says, he would often point out, where's the prediction that person is going to be an incarnate? What's the lineage? What's his father's name? What's his this name? What village? Sometimes even it's described which village that the person, the incarnation appears in. all of that information is there to counteract any false claims to be an incarnation. Because, as we've heard many times and in different ways, and we apply it, this is a science. The knowledge of God is a science. It's not just whimsical sentiments. You know, I think it's like this. And Prabhupada always, he would particularly, there was many points that he would hammer. He would, you know, just to make sure we got it. If we didn't understand it that way, he would hammer another point, and then go back to the other one. That there's tons of very specific, very authorized, very knowledgeable information about the incarnations of the Lord, about the identity of the living entity and their position and their relationship with the Supreme Lord. And it's all there. And any other speculation won't bring one to this same result that one derives by hearing the absolute truth from the lips of a pure devotee and develops gradually their love for the Supreme Lord. It won't get that result from other bogus philosophies. Or even, and not to say that all other philosophies are bogus and to totally disregard other philosophies, but they're incomplete. If they're not totally, some of them are totally bogus, okay? But a lot of them are just have levels or aspects, certain aspects of information about God, and it's not complete information. Okay, you can try a little bit more. Purport.
Lord being the source of everything that way is the origin of all austerities and penances also. Great vows of austerity are undertaken by sages to achieve success in self-realization. Human life is meant for such tapasya. With the great vow of celibacy of brahmacharya in the rigid life of tapasya, there is no place for association of women.
Okay, so here it's going to get a little very specific here. So hang in there. Put your seatbelts on. Okay, go ahead.
And because human life is meant for tapasya, for self-realization, factual human civilization is conceived by the system of Sanatana Dharma, or the school of four castes and four orders of life, prescribed rigid dissociation from women in 3 stages of life.
Okay, hold on. Stop. Okay. So here Srila Prabhupada begins to give a brief but thorough description of the Varnashram Dharma system. And the reason that he's giving it is because he's trying to stress the importance of performing austerity and what austerity consists of in order for self-realization. In other words, a life of sense gratification is totally inconducive, inappropriate for someone who's thinking that they want to make progress in spiritual life. So we can see how modern civilization has pretty much totally lost any concept of living a life with some restrictions, you know, that all restrictions are bad or this or that, or we need to, restrictions represent, you know, suppressed emotions, or restrictions represent a backward lifestyle, and we want to just do whatever we feel like and think that we're doing great. But we see the difference in the social structure. There's a structure, and there's a lot of trigger words and trigger phrases in this purport, and there'll be a few more. But even when we hear of the Varnashram system as a system of different castes and orders of life, how do we understand that caste system? What's the proper explanation of the caste system? Or maybe we should start off with what's the improper understanding of the caste system. How about that? We'll start off with the improper understanding of the caste system. Presence. present with the microphone.
So the improper understanding of the caste system, as far as I understand it, is that you're born into a caste, and you, like, whatever caste you're born into is the caste that you're meant to be a part of for the rest of this iteration, this life's iteration.
And expand a little bit of what that meaning, born into a caste. What does that mean?
So a caste is like a hierarchical categorization of humans, whereby there are some people who are higher and some who are lower and some who are considered not people at all.
Yeah.
And so if you're born into one of those classes, it's said that, okay, you are this, and you can't move between the castes either. So it's like, you're born into this, you're stuck here, this is who you are for the rest of this life.
Yeah, more or less, also you could say, it's based on exploitation, the higher, someone who's born in a higher position considers, them, that they can manipulate, rule, repress, whatever, anyone in the lower system, and that's, so whatever. But so now let's speak about what are we understanding? What are we beginning to understand about the proper application of that word caste system? Or sometimes we avoid that term totally and just say varnashram system. What's the proper understanding? How do we get over you start to like get a little uncomfortable when you hear talk of caste system, and people don't like it. In general, don't like it.
I guess a better understanding of it, more encouraging one for sure, is that everyone has like different inclinations and like different dharmas, I guess, or different qualities that they're inclined to do a certain different things.
Thanks. Gopal, what would you like to add?
It's based on qualification.
Qualifications. And what's that based on?
Well, like she was saying, natural, the natural tendency of the person in 3 months material nature that he's acting under.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's all very helpful. Anyone want to add to the discussion? Proper understanding of the caste system?
I think we don't need to divide by the birth to the caste. By the doing and activities and the mode of nature, we can define them.
Yes, very good point. And your point, can you
also by chanting Hare Krishna, one can raise himself to the level of a Vaishnava.
Okay, thank you. And Prabhu wants to say something.
It's a system set in place for a person to engage life depending on their season or their skill set. Like, you can move through the caste system, but at a certain point you're gonna reach a point where I cannot move any higher because I'm not qualified to be the king. So maybe you're just the street sweeper and you're like, oh, I'm happy doing just this. I don't feel the need to keep climbing. So based on your skills and your dharma, you reside where the community needs you to be. So it's like a managerial structure.
Exactly. It's a golden. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And there's a little more nuances here and there, but we have just a limited discussion here, so we're trying to get an overview of an understanding. So the tendencies are there. Different. Even we'll stop thinking of quote unquote the caste system, but we'll just look at society in general. Think of your high school days for a minute. If it's not too torturous for you. There are different types of people in school. There were different types of people in school. Some were the nerdy intellectual type that were like super, into studying and reading and learning and this and that. Some people were, the bullies, the bossy types, this or that, or into sports or whatever, and competing like that. Some people were, just simple, going along with things, in a simple way. That you can see the different types of tendencies in different types of natures that we have. And so this was a way to engage people according to their nature, their natural instincts, or whatever. Some are learned instincts and some are already acquired from previous lifetimes, but whatever. The point being that there are natural tendencies like that. John Shinga.
Yeah, this reminds me of an epic called Harry Potter.
Epic. It's
Where
a very
they
popular epic.
Go to school and there's a magic hat, and it tells them which part of this,
which dorm they had to live in.
which dorm they had to live in based on their propensity.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. Yes, Baru, go ahead.
Horrible. So like all great organizations or systems are always system based, like the nervous system, the solar system. So you don't have liver cells pretending to be lung cells because they
Say that last part. You don't have to.
like your liver cells aren't performing lung
Liver
cells.
okay. I just
like
couldn't.
the function.
Okay, gotcha.
They can't.
Right.
There are stem cells that can turn into everybody wants to be a stem cell because they want to be, I'm the one that does everything. I'm so well rounded. But you might not be. You might be just suited to do kirtan, like you, and then you lock into that position and you find bliss in a kind of a flow state performing your dharma. But I think it's just a system handed down to us for the organization of the living entities.
Exactly. It's an order so that society. And Srila Prabhupada would give the example of Varnashram Dharma. You call it the social body. You need a head. You need someone to think. You need the head. You need the arms to protect the body. You need the belly, to digest the foodstuffs. You need the legs to go from here to there. So every part of the body is important, but especially the head's important. The direction, the thinking process, the goal that the person sets. That's very important. So therefore, in Varnashram, there's social and spiritual divisions, but the understanding is that everyone has that, can be educated and understand and take part, because we're all spirit souls, part and parcel of Krishna. And in that way, someone can serve in a simpler way, someone can serve in a more managerial way. So many aspects are there, but the point is to take advantage of the human form of life and go back to Godhead. And now we're just about to get back to the purport. And so for those personalities who just want to be happy and satisfied in the here and now, and with any sense gratificatory idea that pops into their mind, then their result of that, a life like that, is very dark and full of suffering. Okay, we'll try to get back to the purport now. You can remember where you left off.
In the order of gradual cultural development, one's life may be divided into 4 divisions: celibacy, household life, retirement, and renunciation. During the first stage of life, up to 25 years of age, a man may be trained as a brahmachari under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master, just to understand that woman is the real binding force in material existence.
Okay, we need to stop here. That the woman is a real binding force in material existence. That and the combination Prabhupada's now going to talk about, and when the man and the woman unite, then all life becomes much more complicated. And I'll let you continue. Go on. Oh, wait! I just thought of one other thing that I wanted to say. That the Srila Prabhupada also explains that woman is the binding force of material nature if you're a man, and if you're in a woman's body, then the attraction for that enjoyment that comes with the association of the opposite sex, that's actually the essence of what they're talking about here. That's the essence. The attraction for sense gratification, I, me, and mine, and my happiness, and whatever I want, that's the real binding force, no matter what body you're in or what position you're elevated to. If that's the main goal of your life, I, me, and mine, and what I want for my happiness, that means perpetually being bound to material existence. Okay, go ahead.
If one wants to get freedom from the material bondage of conditioned life, we must get free from the attraction for the form of woman. Woman or fair sex is the enchanting principle for the living entities, and the male form, especially in the human being, is meant for self-realization.
Okay, how does that make you feel? Yeah, it does. Makes you feel bad. Half of the room feels bad, and the other half of the room feels superior. Is that the point? No. So explain a way out of this, please, with the microphone.
I think kind of like what you're saying, like the principles behind it, or like the attraction for the opposite sex is what's gonna keep us here and keep us entangled in our mind and like a servant of like our senses.
Yes.
And then in this case, maybe he's referencing to like actually utilizing like your intelligence more, and like, because it's not bound to the male body. It's I think it's a principle of like, just using your intelligence more, and like actually, Atato Brahma Jignat, like asking like, why am I here, and like, those kind of things, like inquiry.
Yes.
And then that's how you get self-realization.
Thanks. Gopal, did you want to add something? Okay. He's talking about the bondage. What is that main force that binds us to the material world? Whatever body you're in, it's the bodily concept of life. Thinking I'm this body, and if I'm in a man's body, I think this is my form of enjoyment. And if I'm in a woman's body, I'm thinking this is my form of enjoyment. But that concept of this is who I am, as opposed to that I'm a servant of Krishna, that's what's going to bind us.
Did it say something like the man's body for self-realization?
It said that. Yes, that self-realization is particularly favorable in a man's body.
Yeah, it's easier to do austerities in a man's body.
Totally true, because of the body that's given and the functions of the body, whereas the body that's given for the lady that has produced the children, that motherly affection, which is very necessary. It's very necessary. It's not to be totally disregarded, but it all has to be properly utilized. Very necessary. How could anyone raise a family and go through all the struggles of raising a family if there wasn't attraction if there wasn't love there with the children and the relationships? It has to be there. But okay, 1 second. Don't forget your thing, because I'm going to forget mine. But that. The body that you're in provides, no one is bereft of the ability to make progress in spiritual life. And that's the point that needs to be stressed, that everybody has the opportunity to make progress in spiritual life. Some circumstantially, it might appear to be a little more difficult in one form or another, but the opportunity is there, and Krishna's giving that opportunity to everyone. That first, let's her and then me.
I also heard though, like, isn't it like the woman's nature of like being like having this kind of caring, loving attitude, doesn't that make them actually more inclined to take up Krishna consciousness?
Yes, totally true. And Prabhupada says in many places that when there are religious discourses, more women come than men often, oftentimes because of that nature. Yeah. So it depends on what aspect of the point that you want to make, how Prabhupada covers it, but go ahead.
Well, this is back to a little bit earlier in the class about qualification. It's like if your father's a brain surgeon, it doesn't automatically make you a brain surgeon. You have to gain the qualification.
Good point. Prabhupada brings that up. He uses the example of a judge, but it's the same point. If your father's a judge, then you have a very good opportunity to become a judge because you hear about it so much, and then he has family connections, etc. But it doesn't mean that just because your father's a judge, you're going to be a judge, or qualified as a judge. You have to take that qualification. Other comments, Nishinga?
I got two things I want to share that I just always keep in my mind literally every single day. One is a conversation I had with Kalakanta Das Prabhu about brahmachari, and this is universal. That brahmachari means minimizing your life, and householder means expanding it. And I think about that every day, even for this, what we're reading, because you're minimizing.
Yeah, very good point. Continue.
You're minimizing your desire. Ultimately, all of this is based around this natural desire to want to procreate on both sides. That's what we're completely driven, like all these actions to build and create, and but the more that we can like get that under control, then when the time comes and that expansion comes, when man and woman come together and their life expands, I think about one other conversation I had with one of my favorite kirtaniyas. We were washing dishes, and he gave me a whole long talk about brahmachari, and he told me how important it was to take brahmachari seriously, because then when you do have a family, you won't be being controlled by that desire. You'll be helping to be a partner in leading your family towards serving Krishna.
Very good point. Thanks. We need to go on because there's still a lot more in the report. Okay. So we already ran out of time. We're already like up. So are you guys okay? And there's a lot more. Look at that. 3 more pages. Okay, I'm gonna skip down. Okay, and I'm just gonna skip down to the end of the report. Okay, you don't have to try to find it. But in the case of the Lord, it became an unsuccessful attempt. Okay, because this is talking about Narayan Rishi, their incarnation, and how they were performing. They're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're the incarnation of the Lord. They're performing austerities. Why? For the benefit of all humanity. Indra became a little envious and sent some apsaras to distract him, and the Lord, Narayan Rishi, they just manifested from their own bodily pores beautiful women that were more beautiful than the ladies that they gotten. So they got to him, oh, this man is beyond this attraction. So here, okay. But in the case of the Lord, it became an unsuccessful attempt when the celestial beauty saw that the Lord can produce innumerable such beauties by his mystic internal potency, and that there was consequently no need to be attracted by others externally. There is a common proverb that a confectioner is never attracted by sweetmeats. The confectioner, who is always manufacturing sweetmeats, has very little desire to eat them. Similarly, the Lord, by his pleasure potential powers, can produce innumerable spiritual beauties and not be the least attracted by the false beauties of material creation. One who does not know alleges foolishly that Lord Krishna enjoyed women in his Ras Leela in Vrindavan, or the 16,000 married wives at Dwarka. That was like the end of the purport. Sorry, there's a lot there, but the point is that why did Krishna dance with the ladies in the Ras Leela, and why did he marry 16,000 wives? Was because it's not that there was no attraction there, but what is the Lord's attraction? Not by physical beauty or anything like that, but by their desire to serve. That's what attracts the Lord. That's why in our offering of foodstuffs to the Lord, Krishna's attracted by the bhakti, by the mood of love that we're offering, and that's what he's eating, the love. That's a very brief description of this class. Sorry, Hare Krishna. Thanks for putting up with me. Vanchakalpa Juvyascha, Vipasindhu Eva Cha, Patika Vaishnavi. But the Lord didn't eat yet, so how can you eat? He didn't get his offering yet. Well, I'm not the only one that's behind schedule. Okay, go ahead. Where's this Prashada Seva prayer? There you go. Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Swalpa Punyaritam Rajam Vishwaso Vajayate. Fortunate persons develop faith in Mahaprasadam, the spiritual food remnants of the Lord,